So welcome back. Well, since this is the last lecture for the week, I don't want to start with a completely new topic, and the new topic is message integrity, authentication, and hash functions. So this topic is quite heavy, and I'll require the continuity of 3 lectures which we have per week. So 5.4 is the part of the module. So we'll do this next week. So what we will do today is we'll just revise this 5.1, 5.2, and 5.3. So if you want, you can just go through what we have done so far in encryption especially. So we are done with security goals, right? Then we are done with cryptographic attacks also. 4 types of attack we saw: known plain text, chosen ciphertext, etc. And what are the cryptographic techniques? If you are doubtful about it whether it is done, the techniques are about steganography and cryptography. So we have covered them as well. Then we started with symmetric key cryptography, where the keys are same. So we saw the example, we saw the figure that which showed 2 locks with the same key, right? So then we studied the ciphers, substitution and transposition cipher. Then we also studied stream and block cipher, right? Then we went to data encryption standard and advanced encryption standard, which are abbreviated as DES and AES. Okay, so and block ciphers examples are again DES and AES, remember, because they are broken down into blocks. Then so this was the fourth module, which is called as data security. So then comes the fifth module, which is number theory and asymmetric key cryptography. So why is mathematics deal with encryption? We saw in this, we saw that prime numbers are very important. Then we have covered Fermat's and Euler's theorem, Chinese remainder theorem. Yes, we have not covered discrete logarithms because it is a very small topic and it has not been asked in the exam so far. So I just skipped that. So then principles of public key crypto system is nothing but asymmetric key cryptography. So we have seen this in detail using examples. Then we have seen what is RSA algorithm. We have also done the numericals. Then key management is nothing but the problem of key exchange. So to solve this problem, we have the solution as Diffie-Hellman key exchange. So we have done 5.1, 5.2 and 5.3. So we'll just revise this today. Okay, so let's start about it. Sorry, again, why does this doesn't go? I hope it will go now. Okay, let me reopen it again. Am I recording? But yes, I am recording. So TCE PPTs 4 hours, and it is this one, I suppose. Yeah, correct. So we are going here. Okay, so this I'll just auto hide it. Yeah, this would be better. Yeah, fine. So what we are doing, so let me take the pointer. Yeah, so we are ready to go. Now what is the problem? Yeah, we'll not see this, we'll see only related to fifth module. Let's go forward. So you have to start with what? Prime numbers, right? And just a side note, if you have any doubts, you can always post in classroom, so I will go through them, so you don't have to worry if you have any doubts. Okay, so then, so first thing which we studied is prime numbers. So what are prime numbers? They have exactly two divisors, 1 and itself. So these are termed as prime numbers. The other thing is which number 1, which is separate because it has only one divisor, and composites which have two divisors, more than two divisors in fact, right? So this is not important from exam point of view. So we'll discuss what is important from exam point of view only. So then very important thing from exam point of view is Euler's phi function, which is also called as totient function. Okay, so how is it defined? Phi of 1 is always 0, and phi of p is p minus 1, remember, only if p is a prime. Then phi of m times n is phi of m into phi of n if m and n are relatively prime. And what is phi of p raised to e? It is p raised to e minus p raised to e minus 1 if p is a prime. Okay, so then this is not required. So then we saw some examples. So what will be phi of 13? 13 is a prime number. So which property can we apply? If p is a prime, phi of p is p minus 1, so it should be 12. So it is 13 minus 1, which is 12. Then what is phi of 10? You can factorize it as phi into 2. So phi is a prime number and 2 is a prime number, right? So if you see this, m and n are relatively prime, right? So from that you will get phi of 2 into phi of 5. So 2 and 5 are again prime. So you can use the second property. So 1 into 4, that is 2 minus 1 and 5 minus 1. So which is 4, right? Similarly you can do this things. So then we had skipped this. Then we went to Fermat's little theorem. So first version says a raised to p minus 1 is congruent to 1 mod p. Remember, this sign is congruent. If you want to use equal to sign, what you'll do, you'll write a raised to p minus 1 mod p equal to 1. Then second version is a raised to p is congruent to a mod p. So then if you have 6 raised to 10 mod 11, so just see this mod p. So is 11 a prime number? Yes, right? So which we can use first, we'll try for this. So mod p mod 11. So this should be 11 minus 1. So I should have 10 there. So I have 10 there. So 6 raised to 11 minus 1 mod 11. So it should be what? 6 raised to 11 minus 1 mod 11 should be 1. So we can directly write the answer as 1. Remember, in the exam you cannot directly write the answer as 1. You have to write from the first version of Fermat's little theorem, which is stated as a raised to p minus 1 congruent to 1 mod p we get. Okay, in this way you have to write. Similarly, what you can do for 3 raised to 12 mod 11. So p is 11. So 11 is a mod prime number. So p is 11. So can we write this as p minus 1, that is 11 minus 1 here? No, it is in fact 11 plus 1. So we cannot use the first version. So obviously we have to use second version. So what is this? A raised to p mod p equal to a also I can see. So a is what here? 3. So 3 raised to 11 mod 11 I require. But I have 1 3 extra. So what we do? We write 3 raised to 11 into 3 mod 11. Sorry. So this is of the form a times b mod 11. So what is the answer? A mod 11, b mod 11 of mod 11. As I said in the last lecture also, that mod 11 is missing here. So what is 3 raised to 11 mod 11? This is of the form a raised to p mod p. So a raised to p mod p. So what is the answer? A. So I'll get that answer as 3, and 3 mod 11 is 3 only, and that mod 11, so that you will get as 9, right? So then Euler's theorem, what is it? A raised to phi of n is congruent to 1 mod n. Remember, only if a and n are co-prime. And a raised to k times phi of n plus 1 is congruent to a mod n, right? And second version of Euler's theorem is used in the RSA crypto system. So we saw this in RSA, right? We had phi of n should not be a factor of n minus 1 and p minus 1. So then let's say we have 6 raised to 24 mod 35. So 6 raised to 24 mod 35. So n is 35. So what is phi of 35? It is 7 into 5. So 7 and 5 are primes. So 6 into 4, I can use the second property. So 24. So I'm getting that, right? So I can directly write this as equal to 1. Again, you have to mention from Euler's first version, Euler's theorem's first version. Similarly, you can see this one. So then this is a very important question. So the Chinese remainder theorem, CRT, is used to solve a set of congruent equations with one variable but different moduli which are relatively prime as shown. So what we have? These are relatively prime. These are modulus which are relatively prime. These don't have any condition, but this will be equal. So that is what Chinese theorem requires. So then we took a simple example. X should be congruent to 2 mod 3, 3 mod 5 and 2 mod 7. So how to solve this? Okay. So what are the steps? first find from the moduli, multiply the moduli, all the moduli, and get the number capital M. Then find capital M1 such that it is equal to capital M upon small m1, so on. Then do for M2 and Mk. Then find the multiplicative inverse of M1, M2, Mk using the corresponding moduli. Right. So let's see the example so that it is better understood. So what is the step 1? Multiply all the moduli. So what are the moduli? 3, 5 and 7. So 3 into 5 into 7 is 105. Then what is capital M1? This pointer goes all the time. So it is capital M upon M. So what is capital M? 105. What is M1? 3, M2 is 5, M3 is 7. So 105 by 3, 105 by 5, 105 by 7. So this way you will get 35, 21 and 15. Next what to do? Find the multiplicative inverse of M1, M2, Mk. So find multiplicative inverse of 35 and 3. So 3 is the moduli and 35 is what? Capital M1. So then we find for 21 and 5 and 15 and 7. So 21 and 5 and 15 and 7. So what we use here? You saw yesterday also we use extended Euclidean algorithm. So you have Q, R1, R2, R, T1, T2 and T. So how is this calculated? We take R1 mod R2. The remainder is stored in R. Then once we get this, R2 is shifted to R1, R is shifted to R2 and so on. So if we get 1, 0, so this GCD is 1. So the multiplicative inverse exists. If you get any other number than 1 here, means the GCD does not exist. So in this case we are getting 1, 0. So the numbers will be such that we will always get a multiplicative inverse. So you should always get 1, 0. Okay. So GCD exists. So how will you then you go to T1, T2 and T. So initialize T1 as 0, T2 as 1. Then now you will calculate T, T1 minus Q, T2. So you will get T. So then again shift T2 to T1, T2, 0. So similarly you will get here number minus 1 and 3. So this is the multiplicative inverse, but we don't want 3. So what we will do? Modulus is 3, so 3 minus 1 is 2. Right? So this way we got the inverse. Similarly we got the inverse here as 1 and here also as 1. Right? So the inverses are M inverse is 2, M2 inverse is 1, M3 inverse is 1. So what is X? That is this formula. Right? So you just substitute that here and calculate. We get the answer as what? 23. Right? So then this was a homework problem for you. Okay, so this was about the part 5.1. Right? So let's go to the 5.2 part. I hope it is opening. Yeah, it is opening. So much time. It has already opened back in the back side. Okay, so let's do this. Yeah, so data compression and encryption, asymmetric key cryptography. Right? So as we saw yesterday also, symmetric key cryptography is fast and efficient. Right? So however it suffers from a big disadvantage in fact of problem of key exchange. So what is this we had seen? So we use the same key in symmetric key cryptography, but the problem is it is very hard to agree upon a key. So the solution is what? Asymmetric key cryptography. How it solves the problem? By using private key and public key. Right? So there are two separate keys as I said, one private and other public. Right? So if we think in terms of locking and unlocking with padlocks, this is the diagram you can draw in the exam as well. There is no need to be so fancy. You can just draw a simple circle, a vertical line and a horizontal line to show the key. Similar same thing you can do with the padlock. Sorry. So what is happening here? I am having Bob's public key, I am locking it, encrypting it and sending in the unsecure channel. Right? Then Bob is taking his private key and unlocking with the decryption algorithm. So there are two different keys. So this is what asymmetric key cryptography. So what is important here? We are using a public key and a corresponding private key. So that is emphasized in the next slides. So again Alice is sending to Bob. So what we have to remember, the receiver's keys are important. So receiver's key is taken as public key and private key. Right? And what we have to be wary of that public key distribution channel. Even though it should not maintain secrecy, it requires authentication and integrity. Why? Because a third party, for example Eve, should not be able to advertise a public key to the community pretending that it is Bob's public key. And as I said, the more onus lies on the shoulders of receiver, because the keys come from him only. So the receiver's keys are used, the sender's keys are not at all used. Okay, so then we said that the same key pair cannot be used for what? Two-way communication. Because Alice is sending to Bob, we are using Bob's keys. So if you want to send Bob's message to Alice, we'll require Alice public key and private key, right? So then we saw that example of a bank, this example, right? So what we saw from there, that Alice needs n public keys to communicate with n entities in the community, right? So this we saw. Then further we saw that difference is what? Symmetric key cryptography, the symbols are permuted or substituted. But what happens in asymmetric key cryptography? Numbers are manipulated. So this is the main difference, right? And what happens? One key is used for encryption and only the other corresponding key must be used for decryption. So this, the first key can itself cannot be used for decryption again. So that is the very beautiful thing about this scheme. What is another beautiful thing? That every communicating party needs just a key pair for communicating with other communicating party, right? Then we have taken the example of number 10. It is factorized as 5 into 2. So I told that if you want to multiply 5 and 2, or if you want to multiply very large prime numbers, or two large prime numbers, let's say of more than 100 digits also, you can simply use successive addition problem algorithm, write in MATLAB or Scilab, whatever, and we will get that code in a matter of minutes, even if the number is very high. But if the same thing is asked in the reverse way, for example, if you are given a large number which are, and on top of that which is a multiplication of two prime numbers, it is very hard to write a code, and even if it is written, it will take years of computation to break the scheme. So that is the importance of this asymmetric key cryptography, and that's why RSA algorithm is used everywhere. In fact, I forgot to show you this actually how it is used. So let's just go to any site. So let's go to IRCTC, even though it would be very less used nowadays. So I'm going to this site. So you are getting some COVID message. Okay, so I don't want to show this obviously. So if you see this in the top right corner, so you will have view site information. So if you click here, what you get is the connection is secure. Okay, so your information, for example passwords or credit card numbers, is private when it is sent to this site. So that is very important. So you should always check this. Okay, usually if first we used to get a green color here, HTTPS. I don't know why that doesn't appear nowadays. That used to tell us clearly that it is secured. But if it is not secure, it is clearly written insecure, so you don't have to worry. So but what I want to show is not this. I want to show you the certificate. Yeah, so what is written here? Certificate information. This certificate cannot be verified up to a trusted certification authority. Okay, it is not certified. Yeah, I want to show you this. So what are the details of the certificate? This is the serial number, and what is the algorithm they have used? See, SHA 256 RSA means they are using 256-bit RSA. Okay, so this is using what? RSA algorithm which we are studying, which is given by Rivest, Shamir and Edelman. Okay, and this is not the case with only this site. You go to any site, for example, a very good site is Listverse. So if you see this again, this is showing secure. Let's again go to certificate. So it is again valid. So you go to details, again this uses RSA, right? So all the websites which you browse are using RSA algorithm. Okay, and you also see something key usage. So we are talking about keys, right? So digital signature is used, key encipherment. So what is digital signature also we'll study in the subsequent lectures. So then you see server authentication, we have studied what is authentication. So all these things you can find here. So then yeah, this is not important. So whatever we are studying is actually employed and it is live on the website. That's what I wanted to show you. Okay, so let's go to our thing. So what is the difference between symmetric key and asymmetric key cryptography? As the first point is obviously same key is used, here different keys are used. Then speed of encryption is fast in symmetric key because it just permutes the symbols. Here the actual numbers are getting manipulated, so it is slower. Then key agreement or exchange is a big problem, as we saw. And then asymmetric key cryptography, it is not a problem at all, because in fact it is the solution, right? So other things also you can see. So then a very important algorithm, as I said, it is very important from exam point of view also, RSA algorithm and Diffie-Hellman key exchange algorithm, right? Because it is not at all asked in the last 3 papers of your revised syllabus, so you can expect them. Okay, so I'll directly jump to the algorithm. So what we do, again, choose two large prime numbers p and q. So by now it should be clear that why we use two large prime numbers only, because it is very difficult to get the factorized number from n will be known, so, but it will be very difficult to get the factors, what are the factors of n, because they are prime numbers, so you cannot get any factors, they will be prime numbers only and unique. So that is the reason it is very hard. So then select a public key e such that it is not a factor of p minus 1 and q minus 1. Then select the private key such that this equation is satisfied. D times e mod p minus 1 times q minus 1 is 1. And what is this? This is nothing but Euler's Totian function. Then compute the ciphertext such that it is plain text raised to e mod n. Send this ciphertext to receiver. Then plain text is ciphertext raised to d mod n. Right? So then this was the example. So make sure you know the examples also, because they are asked. The question is straightforward. Explain RSA algorithm with example. So then we have taken this some numericals. So you can again refer this. So what is the important thing? We saw this equation, right? D times E mod P minus 1 Q minus 1 is 1. So A into B mod N equal to 1. So this is nothing but multiplicative inverse. So D and E are multiplicative inverses of each other. So if you know E, you can find D. If you know D, you can find E. Obviously you should know N also, right? So that's what is done here. So find D such that D into E mod phi of N is 1. So we know E is given as 13, phi of N is 60, this is 1, so we have one equation, one unknown, so we can find it. So what we use? Extended Euclidean algorithm, right? So I explained this a while ago, so we can compute this. So then that is the simple procedure. So then what is the problem of key exchange? We saw person A wants to send a highly confidential letter to another person B, and they are in the same city, but for some reasons they cannot meet each other. So but they have to send a very confidential message. So we saw various things. They can send by post, then registered post, then hand delivery, then seal in a box, then key separately, then send the keys through someone. So all these cases were not acceptable, right? So this is nothing but the problem of key exchange. So what is the solution? We use asymmetric key cryptography, right? So before asymmetric key cryptography, the problem was solved using Diffie-Hellman key exchange. Okay, so what is done in Diffie-Hellman key exchange is it solves the problem of key exchange. So since you already know this, since we have done yesterday, what we saw is they agree on two large prime numbers which are known to anyone, and they further independently choose large random integers. Still they get two keys independently of each other, says that they are equal. So this is again symmetric key cryptography only. But even though we think that the problem is solved, this can be attacked, but that is not in the syllabus, so I am not taking it. So if you want, you can refer the books for that. Okay, so this is the again. So in the exam, if you get a question like explain the algorithm which solves the problem of key exchange, so what you will write? The question is just twisted. The actual question is what? Write the answer for Diffie-Hellman key exchange or key agreement. Okay, so you should know these things also. So then if you want, you can draw this diagram as I said. Then just take two numbers 11 and 7 and just compute it. Why take these two numbers is because these calculations will be simple. So even if you see 7 raised to 6 mod 11, you can do this in calci. In fact, you can do it orally also. So 11 1s are 11, then 0 will come. So then 11 6s are 66. So the remainder, sorry, so 11 ones are 11 ones are 11, so 7 is not there, so we will do 70. So 11 6 is 66, then 4 6, then 11 4 is 44, so 2, So ln 2 is a 22 2, so ln 2 is a 22, so remainder is 4. Yeah. So then we saw these examples and we were done, right? So we are not doing anything new today, so I have just revised for you what we have done in this module. And anyways, we don't have to worry our syllabus because we have loads of time. So once we complete the syllabus, what I'm thinking is I'll take some numericals based on the first module and some random numericals from the other modules which are asked in the exam. So basically we'll solve exam questions after we complete the syllabus. Okay, so for today we'll stop here.